Hey friends, happy Monday. I hope that you had a great weekend. It was absolutely gorgeous outside, so I hope you got a lot of great outdoor family time. And today it's Monday and we are back at it. So we are starting the letter, let's see, T-U-V-W. Miss Katie is working with the Alpha Tales letter W and the word list, which is super cool. And I am here with our new Magic Treehouse book. So we're on Magic Treehouse book number 24 already. And it's Earthquake in the Early Morning. So we'll find out all about this one. So this book, just like all of the other ones, were written by Mary Pope Osborne. And we are going to get started with chapters 1 and 2. So let's see what we've got. Chapter 1 is called Tweet, Tweet. Jack sat up in bed. He stared out his window. The sky was dark gray. The sun would be rising soon. It's almost time, he whispered to himself. The day before in the Magic Treehouse, Morgan's note had said, "Come back tomorrow in the early morning." Jack jumped out of bed. He put on his jeans and t-shirt, and then he grabbed his backpack and crept out into the hallway. Jack peeked into Annie's room. She wasn't there. He slipped downstairs and out the front door. Annie was sitting on the porch steps. Jack sat down beside her. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I was waiting for the birds to start singing," said Annie. "Then I was going to go wake you up." Jack and Annie watched the sky go from dark gray to light gray, and then the birds began to sing their song. "Tweet, tweet," said Annie. Without another word, Jack and Annie left their porch. They headed up their street to the Frog Creek Woods. It was cool beneath the trees. Jack and Annie hurried through the woods to the rope ladder. It hung from the tallest oak. At the top of the oak was the Magic Treehouse. They climbed up into the treehouse. It was barely light inside. Annie picked up the note lying on the floor. She held it up to the window and read aloud, "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing for my library. Something to follow, something to send, something to learn, and something to lend. Thank you, Morgan." Jack took a deep breath. "Okay," he said, "we have our first special writing. A list from the Civil War." You guys remember that one, right? "We have the second," said Annie, "a letter from the Revolutionary War." And that was one of the books that I read, and I remember that one. "And we have the third," said Jack, "a poem from a pioneer schoolhouse." That must have been last week's book, right? Twister on Tuesday. I remember that one too. "Now we just need one more," said Annie. "I wonder why we have to find these special writings from Morgan's library," said Jack. "How are they going to save Camelot?" "I don't know," said Annie, "but let's get going so we can solve the mystery. Where's our research book?" They looked around the treehouse. Their Pennsylvania book, the book that always brought them home, was lying in the corner. Beside it was another book. Annie picked it up. "This is it," she said softly. She showed the book's cover to Jack. It said, "San Francisco, California, 1906. "California?" said Jack. "I've always wanted to go to California." And that's a picture of Jack and Annie checking out the California book. Has any of you been to California before? I know that I have. I have not been to California in 1906, though. Okay, that's a while ago. "Me too," said Annie. She laughed. "I guess I told Miss Neely the truth after all." "Yeah," said Jack, smiling. The Magic Treehouse had taken them to a pioneer school in their last adventure. There, Annie had told the teacher, Miss Neely, that they were on their way to California. Annie pointed at the cover of the California book. "We really wish we could go there," she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster and faster, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right, chapter 2 is called Thunder Under the Ground. Ooh, that sounds both mysterious and a little frightening. Thunder under the ground. "Nice clothes," said Annie. Jack opened his eyes. Annie was wearing a blue and white dress with a big sailor collar and white stockings. Jack was wearing brown knee-length pants, a jacket, a cap, and a tie. His backpack had become a leather bag. He and Annie both wore short lace-up boots, and if you look at the cover, you can see their outfits. So they definitely don't look like they are wearing outfits that we would wear today in 2020. They look like kids maybe from 1906. A church bell started to ring. Gong, 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 gong. It rang 5 times, said Jack. It must be 5 in the morning. Yeah, said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack looked with her. The early morning air felt fresh and cool. The treehouse had landed in a tree at the bottom of a hill. Painted wooden houses and gas lights lined a quiet cobblestone tree. A trolley car moved along tracks up the street. It rounded the top of the hill and disappeared. Tall buildings towered farther off. The sun was behind them, making pink streaks in the blue sky. So here's Jack and Annie in the treehouse, and they're overlooking San Francisco street. And if you've ever been to San Francisco, the houses are very unique. And they're pretty cool. And this is actually very similar to what they look like now. And then there's a trolley car, which is pretty neat. It's really pretty here, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He opened the research book and read, on Wednesday, April 18th, 1906, San Francisco was the biggest city on the west coast of the United States. So if you think about the United States, we live on the east coast, right? And California and San Francisco are all the way on the opposite side on the west coast. It had a population of 500,000 people. It was also one of the loveliest cities in the country. Jack pulled out his notebook. He wrote, San Francisco, April 18th, 1906, biggest city in the West. Lovely. Let's go, Annie said impatiently. Jack looked back at the book. He wanted to learn more. Now, said Annie. She took the book and notebook away from him and put them in his leather bag. Let's not waste any more time. Doing research is not wasting time, Jack called after her, but he slung his bag over his shoulder and followed Annie down the rope ladder. When they had both stepped onto the grass, Jack looked around. Where to, he said. Anywhere, said Annie. Let's just explore and see the sights. We can be tourists. Okay, said Jack, but don't forget, we have to find the writing from Morgan's library. They started up the cobblestone street. As they walked up the steep hill, the sun rose above the tall buildings. The early light turned everything to gold. Stones, street lamps, and the glass windows of the silent houses. It's so quiet and peaceful, said Annie. Yeah, everyone must still be sleeping, said Jack. Suddenly, out of the quiet came a deep, rumbling noise. Jack stopped. He grabbed Annie's arm. What was that? He said. The noise got louder. It sounded like thunder coming from under the ground. The earth started shaking. Yikes, you can tell by Jack and Annie's faces that they are surprised, right? Startled, scared, confused. What is happening? Church bells clanged wildly. The whole street began to move. The cobblestones rolled like waves on an ocean. What's happening? Annie cried. Chimneys fell off roofs. Gas lights toppled over. Bricks crashed to the streets. Get down, Jack shouted. Cover your head. Jack and Annie crouched on the ground with their arms over their heads. All around them was rumbling, clanging, crashing, and breaking. Then the world grew still. The rumbling stopped. Jack and Annie raised their heads. The air was filled with dust. It's over, said Jack. That must have been an earthquake, said Annie. I think so, Jack agreed. I guess I should have let you do a little more research on this place, Annie said. Yeah, probably, said Jack, except I don't know how exactly we could have done that. Jack slowly stood up. His legs felt wobbly. As he brushed off his pants, the deep rumbling came again, louder than before. Then the terrible shaking started. It was even harder than before. Jack was hurled to the ground. The earth trembled and quaked. Jack bounced against the hard cobblestones. Annie, he cried. He tried to stand, but fell again. Through the dusty air, he saw the tall buildings swaying against the sky. Roofs were caving in. Up and down the street, bricks, glass, and concrete showered down. It seemed like a long time before the dreadful noise and shaking finally stopped. It's really intense. All right, we're going to read chapter 3 tomorrow, and chapter 3 is called The Great Shake. Whew. All right. I hope that you have a great Monday. I hope that you enjoy reading the Alpha Tale story and coming up with your own letter W list. W is for, let's see, what sound does it make? Whoa. Whoa. So I hope that you have a great time doing that. Definitely share some pictures with me of all of your adventures today. And I hope that you enjoyed the first 2 chapters, and we will be back tomorrow with 2 more. We also have a morning meeting tomorrow that we will see each other at. So I look forward to that. All right, have a great day. See you soon. Bye.